In the deepest parts of South Carolina, where old money whispers louder than truth and legacy often outweighs justice, there lived a family whose name opened doors before questions were ever asked. For nearly 100 years, the Murdaugh family didn't just participate in the legal system, they shaped it, controlled it, and benefited from it. Their influence stretched across courtrooms, police departments, and political offices, creating an invisible shield that protected them from scrutiny. In these towns, people learned early that some names were better left unchallenged. Stories were heard, suspicions were felt, but silence always won. To the outside world, the Murdaughs were pillars of respect. Inside, however, something far more fragile was taking shape. A structure built on secrets, pressure, and fear. And when a system relies too heavily on power, it often collapses in the most violent way. On one night in 2021, that collapse began. Not with a warning, but with gunshots that echoed far beyond a quiet hunting estate. June 7th, 2021 was supposed to be an ordinary evening at the Moselle property. A vast stretch of land surrounded by trees, isolation, and privilege. As daylight slowly faded, the estate rested in near total silence, broken only by insects and distant sounds of nature. No neighbors nearby, no witnesses watching. It was the kind of place where secrets could breathe freely without being noticed. But by nightfall, that silence was shattered. Maggie Murdaugh and her son Paul were found brutally murdered near the dog kennels, a location so ordinary, yet now permanently stained by horror. Investigators were immediately unsettled. 2 victims, 2 different firearms, no signs of forced entry, no struggle that matched the brutality of the outcome. And standing at the center of it all was Alex Murdaugh, husband, father, and powerful attorney, calling for help while surrounded by questions no one could yet answer. Alex Murdaugh's 911 call painted the image of a man in shock. Words spilling out quickly, breath uneven, emotions seemingly raw. He told police he had been visiting his ailing mother and returned home to a scene that would destroy any family. But as investigators replayed the call again and again, something felt off. Certain details appeared too quickly. His certainty didn't match the chaos one would expect. His timeline was precise, almost rehearsed. As hours turned into days, detectives began comparing his statements with digital evidence, vehicle data, and phone records. And slowly, a disturbing picture emerged. The man who claimed to be miles away might not have been as distant as he insisted. Suspicion crept quietly into the investigation, turning a grieving survivor into someone detectives could no longer ignore. As police expanded their investigation, the murders began opening doors to an entirely different nightmare. Financial crimes surfaced, massive ones. Millions of dollars allegedly stolen from vulnerable clients. Legal settlements quietly redirected. Trust betrayed over decades. Alex Murdaugh's polished image as a respected lawyer began to crumble, revealing a pattern of manipulation and desperation beneath. The question investigators now faced was terrifying in its simplicity. Were these murders the result of years of lies finally catching up? Or were they a desperate attempt to stop the collapse of a carefully controlled life? The case was no longer just about who pulled the trigger. It was about how deep the corruption truly ran, and how far someone might go when their entire world is on the verge of exposure. Then came the evidence that shifted everything. Phone data placed Alex closer to the crime scene than he had ever admitted. Movements contradicted his sworn statements. Timelines fell apart under scrutiny. The powerful Murdaugh name, once untouchable, began to lose its grip. Law enforcement, once hesitant, now pressed forward. The community watched in disbelief as a family long associated with justice found itself at the center of one of the most disturbing allegations in modern American crime. And as the investigation intensified, one chilling realization settled in. This wasn't just the fall of a man. It was the collapse of a dynasty built on silence, power, and secrets too dark to remain hidden forever. As investigators continued piecing together the final hours of Maggie and Paul's lives, the story Alex Murdaugh told began to fracture under pressure. Each retelling introduced subtle differences. A minute added here, a detail removed there. At first, these changes seemed minor, almost forgettable. But detectives know something most people don't. Lies rarely stay still. They shift, they bend, and eventually they expose themselves. Digital evidence began speaking louder than words. Phone records, vehicle data, and timestamps painted a version of events that no longer matched Alex's carefully crafted narrative. The man who said he wasn't there appeared to be closer than anyone expected. And with every contradiction uncovered, the question grew heavier. Was this a father caught in tragedy, or a man desperately trying to stay ahead of the truth? The murders didn't exist in isolation. As journalists and investigators looked backward, a disturbing pattern emerged. Unexplained deaths, suspicious accidents, and unanswered questions surrounding people connected to the Murdaugh family. A young man killed in a boat crash, a housekeeper who died under strange circumstances, lawsuits quietly settled, stories quickly buried. To many, it began to feel less like coincidence and more like a shadow stretching across decades. Each tragedy added weight to the growing belief that the Murdaugh name had long been surrounded by darkness, protected by power, silenced by fear. And now, that darkness had reached inward, consuming the family itself. When the case finally reached the courtroom, the world watched closely. This wasn't just a murder trial. It was a public reckoning. A powerful lawyer now sat where defendants once sat, stripped of authority, facing the same system he had dominated for years. Prosecutors laid out timelines, digital footprints, and emotional testimony piece by piece. Defense arguments pushed back, questioning motive and interpretation. Every glance, every pause, every word spoken carried weight. Outside the courtroom, opinions clashed. Some believed justice was finally catching up. Others questioned whether the full truth was still hidden. What became clear, however, was this: the illusion of invincibility was gone. The Murdaugh legacy was now being judged by the same laws it once controlled. Even as verdicts, sentences, and headlines emerged, a deeper question continued to haunt the public. Why would a man with everything choose a path that led to total destruction? Was it fear, desperation, or something far more calculated? Investigators believe pressure was closing in from every direction. Financial crimes, lawsuits, exposure. To some, the murders looked like an attempt to reset the narrative, to gain sympathy, to delay an inevitable collapse. But if that was the plan, it failed catastrophically. Instead of escaping consequences, Alex Murdaugh became the symbol of how unchecked power eventually devours itself. And yet, for many, the story still feels incomplete. As if some truths remain buried beneath layers of influence and silence. Today, the Murdaugh Family Murders stand as a chilling reminder that no name is above the law forever. What began as a shocking double homicide evolved into the exposure of a system corrupted by privilege and secrecy. The Moselle estate, once a symbol of wealth and control, now represents loss, betrayal, and irreversible ruin. Maggie and Paul's deaths marked the end of an era, not just for a family, but for an entire community that lived in the shadow of power for generations. And as this case continues to be analysed, debated, and remembered, one truth remains undeniable. When lies are built over decades, their collapse is never quiet. It echoes through courtrooms, through families, and through history itself.